Welcome into another edition of the In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com. Tom Leach along with Jim Goodman, Keeneland's director of simulcasting. And we're doing two podcasts this weekend. They have a big day at Santa Anita on Saturday with 4 graded stakes races, so we'll do a podcast looking at those races. This one will focus on the other big races around the country on Saturday. And Jim will start with one that's coming up on Saturday night out at Prairie Meadows. It's the Grade 3 Cornhusker. Used to be run at Exarban many years ago before that track went under, now at Prairie Meadows. Pretty good field here. Who did you like?
Yeah, and I can honestly say I don't handicap Prairie Meadows on a regular basis. So,
Nor do I.
With all these horses are coming from all over. You got Churchill horses, you got Lone Star, Belmont, so they're shipping in here. This is a $300,000 purse, so it's a nice race. And I can make a case for Carve, the 2-horse, who actually is the defending champion, 1-for-1 at Prairie Meadows and won this race last year. And he caught a sloppy track at Lone Star last out and may not have liked that. Majestic City beat him. And he also beat Tapiture, who's the other horse that exits the same race. I just don't think Tapiture is the 6-horse is quite the same as he was last year. He certainly hasn't approached anything close to the 105 buyer he got in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. So Tapiture is going to get a lot of play simply because of the connections. Paige McKinney, the 9-horse, is not as much back class, but competitive against Commissioner and Marino the last 2. So I think he fits. After those 3, though, the horse I'm taking is Golden Lad, the 4. Castellano comes in to ride after winning an easy tune-up at Penn National. Had a great work at Saratoga on June 12th. Couldn't handle Carve or Tapiture at Oaklawn, but I think he's got a chance to turn the tables today, and he's 9-2 morning line, I think. So I think you might get a little bit of a price, even though Pletcher and Castellano, you're not going to get a huge price. But that 5-length win at Penn National last time out tells me he's on the right track. Great tune-up, and I think Golden Lad is my pick in the Prairie Meadows Cornhusker handicap.
Right with you on that one. I was surprised to see the 9-2. I can't imagine that he'll go off that high, but still you might get a little value there. You know, this horse has won 2 out of 4 this year, and his 2 losses were to his stablemate Race Day and to Lee, and I think both of those are Grade 1 caliber horses, so certainly better than anything he's facing in here. And I like that Castellano's going out there for the ride, so I'm going to take Golden Lad as well, and I'll use him with Carve and Paige McKinney. So we're pretty much on the same line of thinking there. It's a nice card at Prairie Meadows. They have a couple of good stakes for 3-year-olds in the Iowa Derby and the Iowa Oaks that are preceding the Cornhusker. Let's go to Churchill Downs. Actually, I have 3 stakes races. We're going to take a look at 2 of them. First is the 6th race, the Bashford Manor for 2-year-olds at 6 furlongs. At 6 furlongs. I think this used to be on the Derby Day card for many years, and I couldn't get past the 3 top choices here. I ended up taking Showbound. He was favored in his debut, which was on the turf, and that's not usually Steve Asmussen's main go-to surface, and works have been very good for this one, and I thought maybe since he was bet down as in the debut and didn't win, that maybe he'd get a little value here. So I'll try Showbound and use him with the other 2 likelies, Shoot Craps the 5, and he's coming in hot the 1. How about you?
Yeah, I would reverse those. I think of those 3, I like he's coming in hot the best, because the last 2 races at Churchill at 4.5 and 5, he's really he got beat by Cat Tree. Then he comes back and wins at 5 furlongs, stretching out. So you think he might like the 6 furlong distance. And his first race was a key race at Keeneland, the 4.5 furlong in April, where he lost to a very impressive horse called Cocked and Loaded, who came back and won a couple weeks ago at Belmont. So I think he's coming in hot is the choice here for me. Shoot Craps was well touted at Belmont in that turf race that Showbound came out of, and he went off at 4-1 and won that race. And Showbound obviously was the favorite based on Asmussen. Castellano was riding that day, and again, going from turf to dirt for a 2-year-old, I have no idea how much better he's going to like the dirt, but he's obviously going to get some support in here. I would think he's coming in hot, the 1-horse on top of Shoot Craps the 5 and Showbound the 8.
8th race is the Grade 2 Firecracker, a mile on the turf for 3-year-olds. Could be a soft turf, supposed to be a lot of rain coming through Kentucky leading up to the Saturday card at Churchill. How did you see the Firecracker?
This is another, it's a tough race. It's a really good betting race, I think. It seems like every time I look at Frack Daddy, I don't think he can win. And then he runs a big one and beats me. So I don't like Frack Daddy here. I do like Cassie's horse, Mark Cassie's horse, the 2 Skyflight. lightly raced, only 5 lifetime starts, and ran the Tampa Bay Derby last out and got beat by a neck to Lochte. And Lochte's got a lot more experience than he did, and I think that's no disgrace. The one thing that worries me is he's been off since January, but Cassie can get him ready, and he's been hot at Churchill. He's 25%, 12 for 48 at Churchill. So I think Skyflight for John Oxley and Mark Cassie is my choice here. I can also make a case for Departing, obviously. A 7-horse is probably going to be a favorite here, but didn't run that well in the opening verse and lost to the Pizza Man and Frack Daddy. And I thought he had every chance to win that race and just didn't quite fire. Same thing with Medal Count, the 8-horse. The other horse that I like a little bit behind Skyflight is the 5 Hammer's Terror. Mike Maker and Alvarado, and that horse ran well on his first last time out, won by 2 in an optional $62,000 claiming race. Logical step up to a grade 2 here. So a mile on the turf at Churchill, 1 for 2 and a second. So I like Hammer's Terror behind Skyflight. But I would take those in an exacta box, so that would be 2-5 box, I would think.
Skyflight is the one I figured was probably the most likely winner, but I'm going to try to beat him off a little bit of a layoff with Departing. I thought he ran pretty well for his turf debut, and I think he could improve off that. And I'm just thinking that this horse, a mile, Son of War Chant, a mile could be his ideal, or not a War Chant, but of War Front. And I'm thinking a mile could maybe be his ideal distance. And I'm going to take Departing for a little bit of value over Skyflight. Hammer's Terror, I think, is definitely one to include. And then the 3 Slip By, I think, has a shot to hit the board. I couldn't see him winning it, but at a big price, he's going to be in there too. So I'm going to take the 7 Departing and use him with Skyflight, Hammer's Terror, and Slip By in exactas. And finally, the Mother Goose, their 9th race. Grade 1 at Belmont for 3-year-old fillies going a mile and a 16th. I didn't think this was a particularly strong renewal. Didn't see any real strong grade 1 types in here. So I think a couple of really lightly raced horses I could see jumping up and winning. I took Embellish the Lace for Dutrow down on the inside. 95 buyer in a 3-year-old debut. And that was incredibly impressive if she can run back to that. And then Karen McLaughlin's got one that's just coming out of a one other than allowance win, Munasara. So I'm going to pick Embellish the Lace, but my play would actually be to take both of those horses and then use them in the second hole along with Include Betty the 2 and Wonder Gal the 10, who are the more accomplished ones. But I'm just not convinced that either one of those is definitely a real strong grade 1 caliber. How about you?
Yeah, I had in my notes here, and like you say a lot, we don't talk before these podcasts, but my notes say came up very weak for a grade 1. So one of these fillies is going to win a grade 1 here, and I'm not sure that this is much better than a top-level allowance race. These fillies have competed. A couple of them have been in the Kentucky Oaks, and the one that I did stick on is Wonder Gal, the 10-horse, simply because she is only 2 lengths away from a double grade 1 winner. She finished a length out in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies last year and got beat by Take Charge Brandy, which is certainly no disgrace. It only lost by a length at 15-1. Then she comes back this year, didn't run very well in Gazelle, but came back and almost won the Acorn and got beat by a really nice Pletcher horse, I think, Curlina. But Wonder Gal, she was on the rail and kind of stuck down inside, and I thought she had a real shot to win that. I think she might get the grade 1 here. So Wonder Gal, the 10, is my choice. I like Eskin for Money, the 9-horse, and Include Betty, the 2. And I put a big question mark by your pick, Embellish the Lace. If she's as good as that last race, she may run away from these because she won by 13.5 at Pimlico, and that comes off a 10-length lead at 10-length win at Park. So she's been very good, and she's getting good in a hurry. She's only been out 3 times, so got a lot of room to improve. So I would certainly include her, but Wonder Gal is my pick for Leah Giamardi.
Best of luck with your wagers on Saturday. Again, we're going to do a second podcast for the 4 graded stakes races on the Saturday card at Santa Anita. For Jim Goodman, I'm Tom Leach, and this is the In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com.